What's up guys, Chris VA Travels. I'm getting a guided tour of the Matthews County History Museum. This was an old Texaco station, that's stained glass, the T up there, and yeah, lights up at night.
Hey Chris, I'm Tom Robinson. I'm president of the Matthews Museum, and we're glad to have you here today and show you around. This building started out as a Texaco gas station, then it was a Dodge and Plymouth car dealership, a bowling alley, which you can see a bowling alley in the back there, and the first offices of the electric company when we first got electricity in 1935 here in Matthews. We're sort of setting zones in here and trying to do a nice portrait of the history of Matthews County and the people. I sort of say this is a museum of practical history, the lives of the residents in the area. And for Christmas time, we have a little exhibit here called It's a County Critter Christmas. And these are animals that you would find in Matthews County, including this very, very rare piebald deer. It's a regular Virginia white-tailed deer, but only about 1% of the population come out white with brown spots or white with black spots. And they're a lot more rare than albinos. So we were lucky to get her. It was donated by the Essex Museum in Tappahannock. And you're looking at our black bear there. Most people don't even see the black bear when they're looking at these animals until they go around behind them and see, holy cow, what a big bear. So he's an imposing figure from the rear. And over here, there's some mixed stories about this. This is the Campeche chair, originated in Campeche, Mexico, and Thomas Jefferson saw it there and had, it was the only chair that would relieve his rheumatism, so he had his cabinet maker, James Hemings, Sally Hemings' brother, make one for him at Monticello, and he sat in it to write the Declaration of Independence. Well, as friends would visit, they coveted his chair because they'd never seen one like it. And he had a few more made for friends. And we are surmising that the only connection we could finally find on this, we found it up in the attic of the old courthouse. And then the folks at Monticello, when we found it, they asked if they could bring it in for research. And they've had it for decades, and we finally got it back. So we feel it more than likely was made at Monticello, but there's no proof of it. But it is a historical document. The researchers at Monticello aged it. The wood was authentic for the period and the construction. So we're trying to find out a little more history on it. Back here, this is really sort of the plain history of Matthews residence. This is Grandma's kitchen. And it's the evolution of appliances from the 1800s on up with stoves and refrigerators and washing machines and kitchen articles of that period. This was a small household wood stove. That you can make some nice meals on these. My great-grandmother, I ate many a good meal at her house. And next to it, and I've got this taken apart now because the clock face is gone. I've got it all packed in here. We're redoing this. This is a time clock from the old Matthews Ice Company, and they made soda pop, they made ice cream, a lot of other things there. And this was your time clock. It had a pendulum going there, and you put your card in it and punch it. Let you know what time you went to work. When they went from wood, they had nothing else to go to. There was no electricity in Matthews, and there was no propane, so they had to go to kerosene. And if you've ever lit a kerosene lantern in your house, it stinks up the whole house. I can imagine what this stove would make your house smell like, especially with the oven. If you were baking a pie in here and it sits right over the burner, I don't think it would be very appetizing. Two washing machines over here. In 1881, well, use it like this. And interesting, this is extremely heavy, even though it's cast aluminum. They came with gas or electric motors, and prior to 1935, there was no electricity, so they had to come with gas motors. This is a 1926 model, and the people that had these started complaining because it wore their clothes out. The square design was really not conducive for the best clothes washing. So Maytag came up with some accessories to sort of blunt the arguments about its washing ability, and it might not be the best clothes washer, but it made great ice cream and butter. And so you take the dasher out and you put an ice cream dasher in there, and you put your salt and all that, and you came out with wonderful ice cream, and same thing with butter. And we have a little mountain place up in Rockingham County, and we go to the Rockingham County Fair each year, and which is the best fair in Virginia. And they have this machine demonstrating it there, making butter. And we buy a pound of butter each year that they make in it. A double wringer, you'd have a wash tub on each side. You take your wet clothes out, put them through the wringer, and they would go into the dry tub on the other side of it. And then you'd hang them up on your clothesline. And your different spinning wheels for making cloth, and your cobbler's bench for making shoes. This is a favorite thing. This is the Armstrong table stove from 1917. It cost $15, and you had a frying pan. You take that off. You could cook a steak on top. You would make toast in here. You'd take this out, and you could poach eggs. You take it out, and you could bake a cake in this. Put the top on, and you bake a cake. So it was really an interesting piece, and you start thinking, why wouldn't they have these for college dorms and all now? Such a convenient little thing.
Toaster, right?
That's a toaster. Mm-hmm. They're pretty common. Most of those were in the 20s. A cherry stoner. You put cherries in it, and they would take the seeds out. This, we think, this, a lot of people say, oh, it's an ice cream scoop. No, ice cream wouldn't be conical like that. I think this is from a long time, from my childhood, where you'd go to your drugstore that had a lunch counter, and you could get ham or chicken croquettes. And they always came out, they'd pack them in and pop them out on a bed of lettuce. I think that was for croquettes from years gone by. And your potato mashers. This was a utensil. Most everyone had coffee grinders in their homes. Coffee didn't come pre-ground. This is a very ornate, lots and lots of wheels, an apple peeler. You would bolt this to the table, all those wheels, and you put an apple on this, and this is a razor, and you put through, and that would take the skin off an apple. It took us a while to figure out what this was. It had a cord that came out, which I assumed it was something that would go up and down as you push this. It was an electric cord. This is a rheostat from 100 years ago that you'd hook this to a sewing machine or a drill press or a lathe, and the more you push down, the faster it would go. We're not real sure what this is, but I keep thinking this is a lasagna maker. It's just a flat, 2 wheels in here, it's flat, and maybe you put your dough on one end and it would come out flat in the other, but I'm not sure. We have not really been able to find out what this is yet. But we have several items like this that we really don't know what they are, and we're going to sit them out and let people try to identify them, and they may help us with the identification. And I think back in my age group, everyone 60 or over had one of these tables. They may have come in different colors, but they had a porcelain kitchenette table. And even though this is a very unassuming little piece of furniture right here, I always ask when the ladies come in, do you have any idea what this is? And they said, no. I said, well, sit in it. I'll show you. And I said, sit in it, and you grab both handles, and you look at your husband and say, don't ever touch me again. It's a birthing chair. This is the ladies would. This was the best angle to have to birth a baby, and that's from the late 1800s. Down on the farm, implements, egg incubator, and a corn sheller. We're just putting things back in order now. We just had our floors done, put our epoxy floors in, because the floors here were awful looking, and we had to move everything out. So we're just moving things in here now, and we're getting all the signage made for everything. So next time you come in, you'll see signs on everything explaining what things are. And this is just a reminder of when this was a bowling alley, the Bijou Alley. It has a picture of them bowling inside. There's a duck pen lanes here. We're going to put I've got the bowling ball and the pins and all to go back on here. And this is a favorite exhibit, especially with kids. This was Tom Hunley's Country Store, and everything in here is from a century of country stores. And Tom Hunley was also a justice of the peace, but he was also the meter reader for the electric company. And in the 40s, when the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company came to Matthews, the A&P grocery store, it was like Walmart today, and they put most of the country stores out of business. And as they were closing down, they were throwing away merchandise and store fixtures and signs. And Tom would say, these things may be important one day. He said, don't throw them away, I'll take them. And he saved all of these things and built a country store in his backyard years ago. And let people come and look at it. The news media would come in and do stories about it. It was a lot bigger than this. But he died, and his son, who's our treasurer on our board, he donated everything here. And he said, give me a room and I'll rebuild my father's country store here as an exhibit. So it's been very popular. It's a real part of our past. Not just Matthews, but this is pretty much all over the country they had stores like this. Well, most things in those days were packed in wooden boxes, not cardboard. Oysters were a big thing in Matthews, so Billups brand, I was talking about Richard Billups, who was Justice of the Peace here. The Billups oyster brand was a big one. And Matthews is known for its oysters worldwide. And all of your different food items, most everything came in tin cans back then, or glass jars. Your medicines, your patent medicines here, all the different remedies that in those days, to make you feel better, they would give you all these different elixirs, but they were mostly alcohol and some had cocaine in them. So it probably didn't cure anything, but it made you feel better for a while anyway. It wouldn't be legal today to sell them. We had a couple of fourth graders, boys were standing here looking up at this, and the teacher came around the corner and screamed at them and said, get away from that, it might go off. And I came running in to find out what the problem was. And I said, what's the problem? She said, that gun, is it loaded? I said, that's a telephone. A what? And I started realizing, unless you're at least probably in your late 20s or something, the only thing you've ever seen is a smartphone.
Yeah, right.
So nobody knows what an old phone was, much less one like this. So we're going to be doing a phone exhibit, going from the early phones to the modern ones. We've got old pay phones, but these old country stores, like I said, like the Walmarts of today, they carried everything: gloves, shoes, anything you needed. And they would say, if we don't have it, you don't need it.
Pretty thin foot on that, huh?
People were a lot smaller back in those days. And that's when penny candy was actually a penny. And you'd heat with the old wood stove, and you'd have your spittoon close by. Everybody chewed tobacco and needed some place to spit it. And most of your general stores were also post offices. This is from the Diggs Post Office. Went out of business in '76, but this was the typical post office window you would see in most country stores. They were wooden. And since you had a general store about every quarter of a mile, you only had so many post office boxes because there weren't that many people that lived there, and they would walk to the general store to get their food. This is our newest exhibit coming in, and it took a lot of lobbying to get her here. Sally Tompkins was the only commissioned female officer in the Confederate Army. She was not a soldier. Jefferson Davis made her a captain only to keep her hospital open. She started the Robertson Hospital in Richmond, and it became the hospital with the highest survivability rate of any hospital in the Civil War on either side, 95.5% survivability, which was unheard of with all the amputations going on. And she was able to save a lot of lives. Only about 75 soldiers died out of 1,333 that came through the hospital. So she was dubbed the Angel of the Confederacy. And she was one of 12 ladies that were chosen to be in a sculpture garden at the state capitol called Voices in the Garden, of 12 notable women of Virginia history. But along came 2019, and that's when all the Confederate statues and monuments were being vandalized and torn down. And they decided, even though it cost $250,000 to have her sculpted, that she would not go in the garden with the other ladies for fear that somebody would come in and vandalize all of them. So she was put in a supply room to sit there forever and ever, I guess. But through a lot of lobbying efforts of the museum and the United Daughters of the Confederacy, we finally got her here. So she's safe away from vandals and corrupt politicians and anybody else who would like to deface her. And she's standing in front of the flag she served under, including this worn Third National Confederate flag that hung from a Richmond building in 1909 for the visit by Teddy Roosevelt when he was president. That's why that's worn. The other ones are newer. This is actually her flag here. She flew this from 1861 on. It's not much left of it, but that was her personal flag. On the left, it's a cornet. That was given to me 30 years ago, probably, telling me that it belonged to the family's great-great-grandparents, came from a Confederate unit that his great-grandfather played in, and it played for the funeral of Stonewall Jackson, so the identical model. And then this bugle has an interesting story. When I got it, it was given to me, again, probably 25 or 30 years ago. It was black. It was smashed completely flat in 3 pieces, the mouthpiece and the two tubular parts, but completely destroyed. But until I got this restored and played taps at a friend's funeral about 2 weeks later, I announced to the folks there that this was the first time this bugle had been played in public since it was last played to blow assembly to call the troops together for the fall of Richmond, April 5th, 1865. That's a typical cavalry uniform. Guess we can say he's standing guard over Captain Sally. A lot of accoutrements of the hospital. This is what the Robertson Hospital looked like down here. It later became 3rd Street Diner that tore the house down, and it was a restaurant for many years. And next to it, and we have the all of the ones that she made up. 1,333 soldiers went through her hospital, and she only lost about 75, a 95.5% survivability rate. But this gives the name of every soldier that came through, what unit they were with their rank, what their ailments were, and what happened to them, and a lot of amputees and so forth. But to be able to save over 95% when that was just an unbelievable record with all the amputations and the infections. And this was her captain's warrant here, or her commission. And this little unassuming piece of glass is an interesting artifact. It's called a tear catcher. And when the ladies sent their husbands or sons off to war, they'd cry. And they held this up to their eyes, and the tears would flow in it. And they would cork it up, and when their husband came back dead, or their son came back dead, they would pour the tears over their grave. So this was a common sight back then. And that's Captain Sally when she was at the old Confederate ladies' home. These are very rare flags. These two flags and the third national flag, over here, the one that's worn, flew over the buildings on Broad Street in Richmond for the arrival of President Teddy Roosevelt. It took us a long time to find out about these because no one had seen these flags. The National Park Service, the Richmond historical people, no one could identify it. Extremely rare, but we found out, didn't find out until 1996 that this was the official City of Richmond flag, and it always had been, and was still in 1996 until we found out that you have the city emblem on one side and you had the Confederate battle flag on the other of the city flag. So with the demographics in the city, and when they saw that the official city flag in 1996 still had a Confederate flag on the back of it, they changed it completely, very, very quickly, to make sure they did away with the battle flag. And the Dio Vindici on there, God Vindicates, which is the Confederate motto. Unless they've dug them up, they still had the brass on the sidewalks on Broad Street. You had the R.E. Lee camp, the headquarters. The little weights for portioning out the medicines. That's another P. Buckley Moss sketch. And this was recently given to us. The main toolbox that went into a shop by Robert Morgan. He was a sergeant in Company D, the 61st Virginia Militia, the MATHEWS Battalion, and shipbuilder, I think, before, during, and after the war. And this was the toolbox that he made for his shop. And then he had his carry-around toolbox underneath, and he's buried, he died in 1920, he's buried at the Jarvis Cemetery just a little ways down the road here. This was Sally Tompkins' birthplace, Poplar Grove. That mill is being restored now. That's the only, it's one of very few tide mills, but this is the only tide mill like it in the world, that it works on the incoming and outgoing tide. And it ground the grain for Washington's troops during the Revolution. So that's being restored now. And this room back here, I mentioned, is not for public consumption at this point, but I'll let you get a glimpse of it. It might be hard to see, might be hard to photograph here. This is going to be a nighttime underwater scene. This contraption is called the Aquascope. And Gilbert Klingel, who was on Gwynn's Island, is the most famous man to come off of Gwynn's Island that very few people have ever heard of, but he's revered around the world. He's on the left here. This Aquascope, which weighs 4,100 pounds, was commissioned by National Geographic to do the first underwater color photography under the Chesapeake Bay. And they spent 100 hours under the bay in this, And he said he smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day, which had to be really bad for his shipmate there. It generated a 16-page article in National Geographic in the May '55 issue. And when I got this several months ago, National Geographic brought their Explorers Club down from New York, and they wanted to get pictures with it, and they're coming back here for our grand opening of the exhibit, which we hope to be complete by February for our annual membership meeting. And they'll be doing another article in National Geographic and doing some more filming of it. So I would love to think we'll go international with our little museum here before long. But this exhibit is, again, it's going to look like it's underwater, and this was held up by 4 cables, and the cables will go up to, we'll have the pontoon boat, a miniature version up in the ceiling using ductwork, galvanized ductwork as the pontoons. And all you will see, because it'll be a night sky, all this will be a midnight blue. The ceiling and all will be so blue it looks black. And all you'll see will be the bottom of the pontoons with the cables coming down. So it's going to be a very interesting exhibit. We're real excited about it. This is the first thing we put in when we started rebuilding. We put our theater in, and we've got a 50-seat theater. We actually have a wedding in here in 2 weeks. Not long ago, I obtained this 1891 A.B. Chase pump organ. It's in beautiful condition. It did need to be have some rebuilding done. The bellows, which usually the first things to go on a pump organ, were in really good shape. They had been rebuilt a few years ago. And the organ rebuild is Thompson Pipe Organ Company. They do all the work at Colonial Williamsburg. They came in and did a beautiful job of restoring it for us, so it sounds great. And we'll be using that this coming Friday for Christmas carols. We have the carolers coming by, and we have a lady that's an expert pump organ player, and she'll be playing all the Christmas carols on the organ. But it's unbelievably loud for something that has no amplification to it. It makes a lot of noise. Again, being a trumpet player, if it's over 3 valves, I'm sort of lost. But this, you can definitely get a big sound out of it. You just have to keep pumping. But it's really in nice shape. To go back to 1891. And these are the windows. These windows were all boarded up inside and out, and we left the boards on the outside because there's a building right next to it. But I took the boards off the inside. They were decorative. It wasn't like they just threw some plywood up, but I wanted to see what was behind them. And thank goodness most of the sashes were okay. A lot of the glass was broken. Replaced that. But our artist that'll be doing our room in the back, she came in and did scenes from Matthew's past up to the future. I mean, not up to the present here, but a lot of things going back to the Revolutionary War period, and when the steamships used to visit and the fishermen, and when Matthews was known worldwide for its daffodil farms, which was still big when we first moved here back in the 1980s. You had hundreds of acres of jonquils and daffodils. But those people have died and gone away. This room is pretty complete with all of its tin walls and tin ceiling, all authentic from 1936 when they built it. This was Donk's Theater. Josie owned that. That was Donk's Theater. That we actually had 3 movie theaters in Matthews at one time, and 2 hospitals. Really? This little community had a maternity hospital and a general hospital. We had Donk's Theater, the Bijou Theater, and then you had a black theater, which they actually had in the Lee Jackson School. Donk's Theater fell down during a snowstorm, and they never rebuilt it. We have a standing turkey and we have a flying turkey up on the wall. They're both beautiful mounts. A very fat beaver and an otter. The otters are a real plague here. They are to me, they're cute animals, but they're so destructive with their crab pots. They go in and upset the crab pots, go in and take the bait out, and then they squeeze in where the crabs go and push the sides out so the crabs can get out, and they go in and eat the crabs too. So we're constantly repairing crab pots that they've destroyed. The coat that she's wearing is called a palto, and this is Sally Tompkins' coat with all the embroidery on it. But we needed a smaller model because Sally was only 4'11", and this model is close to 6 feet. So her skirt should be touching the floor, but until we can get a smaller model. And we just had a gentleman in a little earlier. He says, "I'll bring you a model." He said, "I collect them. I've got mannequins galore." So he's going to bring in a short female mannequin for us to change, put her coat on. And this is where Sally's buried. This is a P. Buckley Moss watercolor, and that's Sally's gravestone there from years gone by. And this is also a P. Buckley Moss of Poplar Grove and the mill and the manor house.
Psalm right here.
Yeah, we've got letters from the soldiers to Sally thanking her for saving their lives, both Confederate and Union soldiers. And I think she had over 100 proposals of marriage, and she never got married. And when the wounded soldiers would ask her to marry them, she would say, "Silly boy, you still have a fever." Mm-hmm. So that was her pat answer.
So is that?
This is an interesting, it's not in great shape. It was given to us not long ago. This is actually called the Christmas Raid, with the Confederate units on a Christmas raid, but it was commissioned by the U.S. Army War College class of 1994 in Carlisle Barracks, Pennsylvania. So the U.S. Army had that commissioned of a Confederate raiding party. Thought that was unusual. George Washington, this framed portrait of Washington hung in every American schoolhouse for a couple of centuries. They're all gone now. This is well over 100 years old. Came from King and Queen County, from an elementary school. This was recently given to us. This is in Gettysburg. It's called Return to Gettysburg. There's sort of the ghost superimposed on it. The Confederate soldiers and coming back, that was for a reunion. One thing we learned when we got these, again, the osprey is from the Department of Wildlife Resources, but the Cooper's hawk and the owl, again, all three of them are raptors, and you have to have a federal permit to put them on display to make sure that you didn't kill them, because it's against the law to kill a raptor. And these had been mounted years ago. But so we have a note from the Department of Wildlife Resources giving us the okay to have them on display. And just pheasants and snow geese and turkeys and your mallards, your wood ducks, Canada geese, everything you see around here in Matthews. Dead Rise, the old Chesapeake Bay Dead Rise, and skipjacks and fishing boats.
What's a Dead Rise?
They were the typical fishing, more oystering and crabbing boats. They could handle rough weather. They were the preferred boats made on the Chesapeake Bay. Huge fleets of them were once available, but all gone now. we've spent more money than we planned on to get this rear exhibit done, because when we had the floors done, we had budgeted to have them done, and when they went in, there was tile on those floors there, and they scraped the tile off, and when they got down to what they thought was concrete, they started sanding it down, only to find out that it was 1940s linoleum, which was nothing but asbestos. So they had to stop, and about $10,000 later, we had to get all the asbestos out, and that really broke our budget. And there's a picture of our building when it was an appliance dealer over there. It's been many things: a clock maker, clock repair, beauty parlor, paint store, fabric store. It's been so many different things, but we think this is the best use of it now. And we have a lot of school groups that come through. Yeah, if anyone is interested in Gilbert Klingel and learning more about him, I co-produced a film, won the Platinum Award at the International Film Festival, so we're real proud of it, called Gilbert Klingel, Man of Steel. And Klingel is spelled K-L-I-N-G-E-L, but it's on YouTube. And it tells all about him and his Aquascope, and it's an interesting film. And about the boats that he built, adventures he had, the books that he wrote. He was a real Renaissance man. That's just the old water jug that came out of the New Point School, and this is the old cornerstone that came out of that school in 1911. And Matthews had so many schools for a tiny little community, and I think more post offices per capita than anywhere in the United States. Just about every half mile you had a post office. Dr. Haynes was a doctor here in Matthews from 1891 to about 1950. And this was a carriage that he would go on his rounds with. We're going to be restoring this and using it in next year's Christmas parade. We have the horse and all lined up for it. We'll have his medicines in the cases. We've got the horse stall here. We're hoping to get a mannequin horse. The head will be sticking out. But until that time, we have a motion detector we're setting up, so when you walk through the door, the horse will neigh. So it sounds like the horse is in there. This is an original buggy blanket here. This is made, it's called horse mohair. Horsehair mohair. Very unusual feeling. It feels like a horse. And this was donated to us. Actually got a bear on it. Very thick, very warm, and I saw one on eBay. They wanted $1,500 for it. Wow. So these are unusual. And we just had a box of medicines donated. All the different patent medicines, cork tops with labels on them. So we'll have those on display. This was something you needed in the wintertime. This was a foot warmer. You put charcoal in it, and you could rest your feet on it to try and keep your feet warm when you were out on that buggy ride. And this is a horse anchor. It doesn't weigh that much, about 5 pounds maybe, but you would tie this in a rope and you'd have it sitting here, and when you got out of your carriage, you'd throw this on the ground, and the horse would feel the resistance on it and they wouldn't go anywhere.
Oh, really?
They just lay it on the ground, then they'd pick it up and they go ahead. Yeah, the letters of Santa. We actually had 2 letters in here. I got them out last night. Kids had written to Santa Claus. And this window is a little girl's magical 50s Christmas. And everything in it is in 40s and 50s.
I see.
Amanda Robinson put this together, and she's also the one that made our official county love sign that's up at the new courthouse. She did a beautiful job on that as well. Right now, we're officially open on Saturdays from 10 to 2, but we're working on exhibits, so as long as we're working here, I told our local newspaper, if you see the open sign out front, that means we're open. Come on in and we'll show you around. We're all volunteer. We're trying to write some grants now. We need more volunteers. If any of you would like to volunteer to work with us, doing many different things, whether it's being a docent, showing people around, helping us to write grants, making signage, photography, so many different things that we need here. It's a pretty great group of volunteers we have, and we can always add more. We have speakers once a month, speakers that come in, and movie nights, a lot of activities. So we'd love you to be part of it.
Very thorough tour, a lot of neat items in there. I'm going to have to come back next spring when it's all fixed up, but yeah, I'm gonna hit the road. As always, like and subscribe. See you on the next one.